Hi, my name is Laura, and I'm here today to talk about vulvodynia. First, I want to tell you why I think I got vulvodynia, and then I'll tell you how I healed myself from vulvodynia. So, the first thing I can tell you is it started out when I was 41 with really bad acid reflux. And I'm a Pilates instructor, and it's really hard for me to get down on the floor with really bad acid reflux. And so the doctor put me on Nexium and told me I was healthy and everything was fine and this is the normal aging process. So just, take the Nexium, you'll be on it for the rest of your life, twice a day, fine. So I did that and it worked. I didn't feel the acid reflux anymore and things were pretty good until about 8 months after I started the medication. I ended up getting a yeast infection, which I had not had one for, I don't know, 20 years or something. And it was really bad. And I went to my doctor and they put me on I think I first used a cream and that didn't work. And then they put me on diflucan and that felt like it didn't work. So then they tried another round of diflucan and everything that they put me on, I just completely felt burning, stinging, irritation, a little bit of itching, but completely discomfort, and it was miserable. So I ended up going to another doctor, and they found no yeast, and ended up giving me some suppositories for some vaginosis, and I used the suppositories, and that made it even worse. So meanwhile, the culture came back even after I started the suppositories with negative results. I did not have any bacteria overgrowth. So I was so, uncomfortable. And at that point, it had been about 2 months since the original yeast. And it just made me so uncomfortable that I, started getting crazy and desperate. And I just kept running around from doctor to doctor, and nobody could give me any new answers. And finally, I went online and I looked up, vulva burning, itching, stinging, and vulvodynia came up. And of course, I read what it says online, and I broke down crazy crying. This sounded like, some horrible punishment from I don't know what for what I did that I don't even know, for something I never did, and it was just awful. So I, was really upset and bummed, and I was just crazy looking online for ways to get better. And in my search, I had found information regarding your body's balancing and pH. And I was never really into science. And I don't even remember doing science with pH balancing, but I'm sure I must have. And and a lot of the information online said that if your body is more acidic, which most people's are, you will have a perfect environment for illness, inflammation, chronic diseases, cancer, digestive problems. And I did have digestive problems. In fact, it's really important for me to say that I had not only had the vulvodynia and not only had the acid reflux, but I had also suffered from migraine headache, high blood pressure, sore back, and just like a lot of little, you know, ailments that are always chalked up to the natural aging process. But it just didn't seem right to me. My body was completely turning against me, and it felt really wrong. So I, bought every book that I could find on balancing your body's pH. I bought Dr. Young and a few other books, and then I came across one called the acid alkaline diet. I think it's acid alkaline diet, and it was by Dr. Richard Christopher Vossi, and he's a naturopath from Sweden. And I read his book. It's not that long. It's really easy to understand, and I knew right away this is what my problem was. He even listed the symptoms of having an overly acidic body, and vulva burning was there, and so was migraine headaches, and so was a lot of my other symptoms. So I knew this is it. I have to change something in my diet. And I went back to actually one of my doctors and mentioned that, and they looked at me like I was crazy. And, the vulva has nothing to do with your digestion, it's completely a different area. And, it was really discouraging. But deep down in my heart, I knew I was right. Like, I knew there was something to this. And so, even though I had grown up thinking that the doctor knew everything, for some reason, this time I was a little less convinced that the doctor knew everything, especially because I had gone through like 7 or 8 different doctors with this whole mess, and they couldn't help me. So I started to change my diet, and I started to, first and foremost, I cut out coffee, which was really, really hard for me. And, sometimes I go on Facebook forums and I say stuff, and people think, oh, it's so easy for you and it's not so easy for us. And I just have to clarify that giving up coffee was one of the hardest things I ever did, but one of the most beneficial things I ever did. And I am not saying or suggesting that if you give up coffee, all your ailments will go away. That is absolutely not what I'm saying. There's a lot of different things that get thrown into the body that affect your acid level, and coffee is greatly one of those. However, it is not the only thing. And there are probably many people, women out there who have vulvodynia that might not even drink coffee. So I'm not saying it causes vulvodynia. But in my body, it definitely caused an acid effect. And what it also did was it crowded out other food. And funny enough, I used to use coffee to prevent me from eating so that I'd lose weight. And I thought I was doing a good thing. Like, I skipped lunch by having a large cup of coffee, and I thought I was saving calories. And I was very uninformed about nutrition. I really only thought in terms of calories and in terms of satisfaction in my stomach. If I was full, I was happy. And if it was not over a certain amount of calories, I was happy. But I didn't even care about nutrition. And my body clearly did. So I gave up coffee, and I gave up gluten, and I gave up dairy, and more importantly, I added in vegetables, a ton of vegetables. And I really feel like to heal from a chronic illness that is so challenging, because it isn't easy. Even if you do everything I did, it's still not easy. It wasn't easy when I did it. You really have to take out everything that causes inflammation in your body. And the only way to really know that is to do something called an elimination diet, which is, essentially when you're eating mostly vegetables and, maybe some animal protein in very small quantities, extremely good quality though, like organic, grass-fed, raised on a farm, not in a factory. That kind of animal protein is really the kind of stuff I ate. And also drinking a lot of alkalized water. Water is not created equal, and I found that out as well. So I lived on a lot of vegetables, and I lived on a lot of um, some protein. And then one other thing that I really found extremely helpful for me was green juicing, juicing vegetables. And here's one of my green drinks right now. I always have a hard time figuring out how to, there we go. It looks kind of slimy and like it might be kind of funky, but it's actually amazing and quite nutritious and really alkalizing to your body, which is what I was trying to go for. And I was completely new to juicing. I had never done it, no clue what to do. I looked online and YouTube, and there's a bunch of really great people who have shown you how to juice, and that's what I did. And I went out, bought veggies, juiced. I had like 3 of these a day, 3 big ones a day. And and then I ate vegetables as well. And then I also, had to work on bowel movements, because that's one of the way you get toxins out. And I had like serious constipation problems. And I worked on other detoxifying things. I worked on my sweating. I was a really bad sweater, so I worked on my sweating. I worked on, my breathing and meditation and yoga, very instrumental. And I did this for a really long time. And I started to get better like within a week of really like eliminating everything. And you can't even cheat. Like, there's no room for cheating, because if you cheat, your body reacts really badly. So I was clean for like a week, and I started to see differences. I started to get 5 minutes of relief. I didn't get like days of relief at first. I get 5 minutes, and then I get 10 minutes, and then the next week I got a whole day without any pain, and then the next week I got like 3 days and it went on like that, very slowly. Like, I feel like it was like a dissolving of the disease. Like, the disease slowly dissolved, the acid slowly neutralized in my body.